Hi, and welcome back to the Mind of the Writer. So, today I wanted to deviate a little bit from the internal workings of poetry. In the past few weeks, I was looking at more devices and metaphors and personification, alliteration, and all of those sorts of things, and talk a little bit about a concept that I feel is really important around writing in general. But then again, any of this you can shift it over and apply it to off-page living, if you want to call it that. And bearing in mind that what works for me doesn't work for everyone, and some people need more structure than others, and people are very, very nuanced. But today I wanted to talk about something that, well, it's really important for me as an individual and also for my writing. And I think that by sharing this, it may be of some benefit to others. So the concept I want to talk about today is productivity within freedom. And as many of you know, since March of 2022, I've been writing these poems on LinkedIn daily. And there have been times where I've taken small breaks, but it is becoming quite a hefty amount of work. And again, I haven't counted the poems, but I think we're past 300 now for sure. And maybe by the end of the year, there will be 365, so one poem for every day of the year. But one reason why I'm able to do this is because I'm not obligated to do it. There is no schedule. There is no publishing deal. There is no money being offered for it. There is no time crunch. And within that freedom, I am able to operate and produce a lot. And I think that this shows something very interesting about human nature. I think that pressure doesn't always result in quality production. Now, I'm thinking of this in terms of creativity and perhaps in terms of intellectual output. Now that all of my children have left home and I'm no longer in that daily process or that daily endeavor of raising three children, which, believe me, is a really demanding life work. I'm able to see things in myself that I had forgotten, and I'm able to see how I was when I was at university. And so when I was at university, I was extremely driven, but I was not driven by schedules. I mean, I know you've got to hand in essays and papers and things like that, but for me, there was a certain freedom in university that perhaps there wasn't in high school. And especially when I did my master's degree, when it came to writing the thesis, you just had 4 months and you just had to do it. And for me, that was like a dream, because with that sort of freedom, I was able to work so much more efficiently than if I'd had sort of daily deadlines imposed on me by external powers that be. So for me, very easy, we're just going to do a page a day or 2 pages a day, and then month 3 into the 4 months, we'll have our 100 pages and I'll be done. And so I think it's very much like that. It was like that for my serial novel, and it's very much like that for my poetry. So I think that the piece of advice that I want to give, or at least the gentle suggestion, as not to be preachy, is that when you take away, for the creative part, not for the long haul, but for the creative part, when you take away the pressure of trying to get published and, making money, and when you take that away, then I think it relaxes you. You're able to create more freely. And once you're finished, well, then of course you can start to do all that other stuff like the editing and the plus about doing it in public And luckily now, with all the different platforms that you can do this on, is that 99% of the time you will be read. And this is a very interesting thing, because long ago I did have an agent, and he was a fairly renowned agent, but I came across or I came up against some really heavy demands in my parenting, and I had to, I had to sort of leave that endeavor in order to focus on my family. And it was the right thing to do, but it was also very difficult to do. So I think sometimes, or maybe most of the time, the right thing to do is a difficult thing to do. Not easy. But when I went out with him in the past, I can remember saying, I have two goals in life: to be a good mom and to be read, and to share my stories and to have people read. And even though the very act of having an agent and being in the publishing world is, yes, you want to get published, the language that I was using was not, I want to have a bestseller, or I want to have a really, widespread book. It was just, well, I simply want to, I want to be read, and I want to have a readership. And so when you're doing a daily practice and you're writing without sort of all of those other, that scaffolding around you, and you're writing in public, by osmosis, you will generate a readership. And through that relationship, through that free relationship, because there's no obligation on your part or their part. If you don't want to write one day, well, you're not under contract. You don't have to write one day, and nor do the readers have to read. They're just coming to it because they want to come to it. Then the interactions that happen there are mostly, probably all, extremely genuine. And then you get true, unfettered feedback. And then you can work with that for when you move on to whatever the next stage of your project is. And it sounds quite morbid, but I always had this feeling that if anything should happen to me, if I should die tomorrow, I will have been read. And that to me is just so, so important, to have shared my work. I want to make money in the future, but I can't work under really strict deadlines and guidelines, not creatively, and with the freedom I am able to produce. And I think that that's just something that I would like to encourage other people to do, to create publicly, to share work with people. You will be read then, and that other stuff will come in due course. So this is my advice today on the mind of the writer. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.